When we are practicing gratitude, we are happy at where we are. We are not trying to grasp onto something that we don't have or resisting what we already have. Instead, we are just thankful for where we are. And I think that's where happiness resides.
Hey guys, how you doing? Hope you're having a good week so far. My name is Dr. Rangan Chatterjee, and this is my podcast, Feel Better, Live More. What if the key to happiness and fulfillment was not changing our external circumstances, but learning to appreciate and understand our inner world? This powerful idea is at the heart of this week's conversation with the Buddhist monk and author Haemin Sunim. Now, Haemin is a Zen Buddhist teacher and the author of 2 Sunday Times best-selling books, including his very latest, the beautiful When Things Don't Go Your Way, Zen Wisdom for Difficult Times. Haemin was born in South Korea, educated at Berkeley, Harvard, and Princeton, and he received formal monastic training in Korea. And when he's not traveling the world to share his teachings, he lives in Seoul, where he founded the Dharma Illumination Zen Center, offering meditation retreats and counseling programs. We begin our conversation exploring the tension between personal aspirations and societal expectations, what Haemin calls the me of me versus the me of others. And this internal conflict, he believes, is at the root of much of our stress and unhappiness. We also discuss the importance of slowing down and being present, and how in our rush to achieve and reach our goals, we can often miss the beauty and richness of our current experiences. And so he shares some really practical tips for mindfulness that can help us reconnect with ourselves and the world around us. Now, a key theme in this episode is the interconnected nature of all things. And Haemin explains how adopting this worldview can profoundly affect our happiness and our sense of purpose. We also discuss the power of listening, the importance of solitude, and the crucially important notion that we always have a choice in how we interpret and respond to life's challenges. And even when things don't go our way, there's always an opportunity for growth and unexpected joy. This really is a beautiful conversation full of deep and practical insights that I'm certain will help you find greater peace, purpose, and contentment. You have been a Buddhist monk now for 25 years. In your opinion, what are people struggling with today the most?
I think it's relationships. People have many responsibilities. So there are things that they are supposed to do, but at the same time, they also want to do their own thing. So this clash between what I will call me of me versus me of others. Me of others here means what other people expect me to be versus me of me, that is the one that I want to become. And this clash of this desire, two opposite force, creating tension within me. So, for example, I'm supposed to take care of my parents, but at the same time, I have aspirations. So I need to maybe move to a different city and to get promoted and do better job. So what do I do, between these two important desires? The one that I want to take good care of my parents, or it is also responsible. It's my responsibility to take good care of my parents. But at the same time, I also feel like I have, something I can contribute and develop and grow in my own professional way.
I think that's a really powerful example. In your new book, you write about these two me's, and it's a really interesting concept to think about. But also, when you give that example, it makes me think of the modern world. Is this something that you think was a problem 500 years ago, for example, when people, generally speaking, wouldn't leave where they grew up? They would stay there, they'd help their family, they'd do whatever, but they wouldn't move to another city or another country for better opportunities. Therefore, their responsibilities would be met in that way. I guess where I'm going with this is this a problem of the modern world where we now do have these opportunities and these exciting things that attract us so that we can chase our dreams, but at the same time, perhaps neglect what we feel are our responsibilities?
I do not know, but I would assume that the same clash of these two different me of me or versus me of others have existed ever since, I don't know, ancient time. Maybe it's not necessarily they have to leave the city they were brought up, but they might have some different ideas about what I want to become, their job or maybe different type of family, obligations versus the new way of, doing things from their perspective. So I think I wouldn't say this would be something brand new phenomena.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe the way those two problems were manifest, it could have been somewhat different. But yeah.
Yeah. Do you struggle with the two me's?
Yes, I do, of course. Yeah, we all do, right? There is some, aspect of me I would like to become. And there is also expectation of me that I have to perform and carry out as a Buddhist monk. So I try to balance this two, and so that I can have, wellness of my mental state, health and happiness. So, yeah.
Yeah. I've heard you talk about your own personal story when you left Korea and you went to the United States, I think in your late teens or early 20s. And you said that it wasn't until you went back, or it wasn't until you left, that you realized the gold that was already there in Korea. And I think that's a really powerful message for all of us. In English, we have this phrase, the grass is always greener. And I think that really speaks to that. Can you tell me about that a little bit?
Yes. I think, this is also the case for any spiritual practitioner. That is, they think that the final enlightenment or the goal, in order to achieve it, you have to leave, where you are. And then you journey through, and then finally only to realize that you already had it from the beginning. So that was also the case for me. That is, when I left Korea, I began to really appreciate my own traditions, my own, for me, it was a spiritual tradition in Buddhism. And I really began to study Zen Buddhism only when I left Korea. As I was studying them kind of from afar, I began to see a little more objectively, and I began to really appreciate the beauty of the traditions and profound, teachings. So, yes.
Yeah. That applies to all of us, really, doesn't it? Because often we feel that a nicer house, and then we're going to feel happier, or if I split up with this person and get into a new relationship with somebody else, I'm going to be happier. And of course, that may well be the case, but at the same time, wherever you go, you are always there.
Right, right.
And so, yeah, I mean, how can people navigate that though? Because it's quite a common human tendency, isn't it, to think that elsewhere is where the gold is.
Right. They tend to think that, it's the problem is outside, or the goal that I try to arrive at, it is located outside.
Did you think that when you went to America? Did you think America had the gold?
Not necessarily America per se, but I just wanted to see beyond Korea. because I was very young. When we are having any kind of, relationship problems, like for example, then we tend to blame other people. They are the cause of my unhappiness. And only to find out that when they are in a new relationship, they end up having similar, problem again. So then, as you are repeating the same mistake again and maybe one more time, and then it dawns on you that, oh, maybe it's my innate psychological pattern, maybe unprocessed trauma, or maybe, some of the problems that I haven't dealt with, that is keep on causing, those problems, similar problem again and again. So maybe one of the important steps for me is to take good care of those needs and those unexpressed emotions and examine them, as opposed to just quickly jump into conclusion that it's others that they are causing me to be so unhappy.
How do people go about examining their own emotions?
Oh, well, I think, one of the easiest way is to check in with your body. Our body is actually wiser than we think. So all of our subconscious influence, I think your body is feeling it, although your consciousness may not acknowledge that you have that kind of impact. So for example, somebody said, oh, I'm not angry after, I don't know, big, event that happened. And yet 6, 7, or 8 months later, they begin to develop different physical illness. So I think it's a good idea to check in. How is my shoulder is feeling? How is my gut feeling? Is there any pain? Usually when we are repressing or when we are resisting it, it manifests in our own body.
Yeah.
So also, when it's clearly it's a psychological, when there is some kind of stress, then just realize that, oh, there is stress, rather than running away, rather than try to ignore it, just sit with that emotions. I talk about in my book, when things don't go your way, the first chapter was about, sitting with difficult, challenging emotions. Mm-hmm. Because if you can just sit with your emotions, as opposed to running away, it reveals some of the great, lessons, truth about yourself. So until you actually see the truth, that emotion will linger on and, continuously influencing you.
Yeah. I think that's so important, isn't it? I love what you said about the wisdom our body holds. Mm-hmm. And I think in our head-driven cultures that many of us live in, we have kind of forgotten about our bodies. I know I'm much better every day when I spend some time by myself each morning and tuning into my body. How does it feel? Where is there tension? When I take a deep breath, where is there some sort of restriction? Where is there not? I also like what you said about sometimes we're saying we're not feeling an emotion, but your body is actually telling a different story. You mentioned that 8 or 9 months later, something else can happen. But even in the moment, I've seen this in disagreements all the time where someone will say, well, I'm not angry. I'm totally relaxed. And everyone around them can see that your body language is saying something completely different from the words that are coming out of your mouth. So we kind of deceive ourselves, don't we?
Right. I think our body, they don't lie.
Yeah.
So we have to tune in to what our bodies, what they are saying.
How do you specifically do that? And I guess as a follow-on, if someone has never heard that concept before, can you walk them through like a simple practice? It's okay for us to say, you got to tune into your body, but someone's going to be listening to this thinking, well, I don't know what that means. What does Heyman want me to do? So can you help advise them?
It is called body scanning. It's a very simple meditations. You would just scan through your body, starting from your head and to your maybe your tongue and face and neck, back of your neck or shoulder, chest, your tummy, your buttocks, your legs and feet. Just go through and see how they are feeling. You are not bringing any kind of judgment, to that experience, saying, "Oh, I'm not supposed to feel that way," or maybe this is not, not a nice feeling. Just you're gonna hold that judgment, and yet just see what is there. You want to see the truth. And once you see the truth, interestingly, without you trying to, loosening it, it generally, it let it goes. So the parts, the tension that you feel, without, even if you don't try to release it, because you have seen the truth, it generally, let it go, the muscle.
I think that's such a key point, which I only really became aware of in the last few years, this idea that you can feel it, but you're not feeling it so that you can consciously change it. You're just feeling it and noticing it, and then it starts to change.
Right, by its own. You don't have to do anything, right?
Yeah. So I don't think many people realize that. And talking about these emotions that we sometimes have that we don't express or do something with, there was a very powerful bit of writing in your new book about anger. If you don't mind, I just want to read it to you. If you express your anger without any filter, it will become bad karma and return to you. If you just suppress your anger and bottle it up, it will then emerge as an illness in your body. If you quietly observe the energy of your anger, it will change shape on its own and disappear.
Absolutely. Yeah, I experienced it again and again. That is, if I can just honor, what my emotion is right now, how am I feeling, and as soon as I recognize, and label, name it, either anger or frustration or sadness, whatever that is. And then you peel that, sticker off, the label off, and get in touch with the energy right underneath that emotions. Then what happens is that energy of the feeling, emotion, naturally, slowly evolve. And then sooner or later, it disappears.
You need patience for this though, don't you? You need to create time, you need to create space, and you need patience, because if you're constantly in a rush, you don't have time to sit there with your emotions, do you?
It takes only 90 seconds.
Okay.
The change of that, seeing the, change of your emotions, it takes about 90 seconds. So
okay, 90 seconds. So let's say you're doing your body scan in the morning. Mm-hmm. You've had an average night's sleep, let's say, and as part of your kind of routine, let's say in the morning, you just sit there and you do this body scan. And let's say you notice, oh, my stomach feels tight. Of course, many people feel anxiety and tension in their stomach. So are you saying that a lot of the time, if you just sit there and put your attention there, that within 90 seconds, a lot of the time, it's just going to start to change?
Usually when it comes to our psychological emotions, that's how I experience it. It takes about 90 seconds. Within those time, you generally see the change and reshaping of your emotions. And then soon enough, it disappears, or you move on to another topic, or you don't think about it anymore, generally. Maybe you are, outside and listening to the sounds of bird. And so rather than, focusing on your frustration, you are now focusing on the beautiful sounds, of birds outside, and thereby you are not as stressed anymore. When it comes to bodily feeling tension, it might require a little more time than 90 seconds. But the fact that you are acknowledging it's there, yeah, and that's a really great, important first step. And as soon as you have that acknowledgement, then you can actually, the fact that you are paying attention to that bodily sensation is a sign of your love. sign of your, caring. You know what I mean? So you are giving the energy of care, energy of love, and that particular, intention of, wanting to care for your body, that will by itself, help you relax and release that tension.
What would you say the cost is of not doing that? And I guess what I'm getting at is what I've seen over and over again and fallen into the trap of myself in the past is you ignore these bodily sensations, you stay in your head and you start distracting with news or Instagram or whatever it might be, even reading perhaps, right? You distract, you're putting your attention outwards. And once your attention goes outwards, unless you're very intentional, it's very hard, I find, for people to put it back inwards. Is that your experience as well?
Yeah, you can, easily be distracted, yes. But at night, you'll feel it, right before you go to sleep. Oh my goodness, what's happening around my shoulder or my back? There's so much tensions. So sooner or later, your body will, start screaming, unless you are paying attention and maybe start massaging the area or give some care.
Is the body scan something you do each day?
My daily routine is somewhat different, but whenever I feel tension, I do apply, body scan method. But my daily routine is a little bit different.
Are you open to sharing some of your daily routine? Because I guess a lot of us would love to know and understand what it is that a monk does every day to see if we can learn something from that.
There isn't any particular form that I follow. Rather, as I am carrying out my daily life, I try to see the emptiness, impermanence of the things. So, whatever I experience, I can clearly see the impermanence of that experience. And when I see that, then I generally can let go very quickly.
Can you share a practical example of that? Because I think what you've just said has got so many profound implications. But I'd love you to sort of maybe help people understand a regular day-to-day scenario that they may come across, that they may get attached to, but you're saying actually that your skill or something you've cultivated is the ability to know that this is impermanent.
Right.
Any examples come to mind?
Maybe, when you are feeling annoyed, for example, in the morning on your way to your work,
Okay.
and you run into, somebody who was very annoying, maybe in your subway or, while you're driving, and then after arriving at your work and, start maybe turning on your computer and whatnot, and realize that it is not there anymore. The annoyance, not there anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yes. It's simple as that. You only if you rethink about it and try to bring those memory again and again, and thereby holding on to that event of annoyance, then you feel as though you are entrapped in that experience of very negative experience. However, if you can see that whatever that really was bothering you, it's not here in front of your eyes. Isn't that magical? Whatever that really bothered you, like 10 minutes ago, it's not here anymore. It's impermanent. And the true nature is that which recognize everything as it is, not the contents of very experience.
That example reminds me of one of the final sections in your new book called Discovering the True Self. I was reading that last night. And after reading it, I had one of the most blissful meditations I've had in months. And I credit you for that. Honestly, it was absolutely beautiful because you were writing, and I think this speaks to impermanence. You're writing about that tranquil silence, the formless silence, and how thoughts and feelings have form. But ultimately, I think you said something like, when the thought finishes, that's where the silence is. And I remember last night, I was just meditating and the thought came and I waited for it to end. And then there was just calm until the next thought came. And the more I tuned into those little moments of calm, the greater they became. Until at some point, maybe 5 minutes in, there was just this really prolonged period. I can't think of any other word.
Peace.
Yeah, I was going to say bliss, but yeah, peace. It was beautiful. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. People often think that if there isn't anything to think about, we will get bored. And thereby we are jumping from one, idea or one content, one thought to another thought, to another event. They don't want to just relax. They just want to constantly engage with something. But the truth is, our true nature is peace. That is, if we can just relax and enjoy the moment when there's no more thought, and yet you are aware that there's no more thought. Yeah. In this empty and transparent awareness, that's your true nature.
Do you think being happy is our true nature?
Yes. People often think, happiness means excitement. When we are excited, then we feel happy. But, if we want everlasting happiness, then excitement, you cannot, sustain it for a long time. It fades, it disappears, So what we really want is some quality of peace, in happiness experience, happy experience.
Yeah.
So our true nature, I believe, is in a state of peace. And when we are not trying to go somewhere or arrive at other places, and yet you are relaxed, here and now, and you are content with what you already have, or you feel grateful for what you already have, then that's where the happiness lives, rather than constantly trying to go somewhere, like what you said earlier. When I was younger, I thought that by going to abroad, that's where happiness will reside, or by trying to have some special kind of enlightenment experience. For me it was, then I will finally be able to feel happiness. Then later I realized that the very seeking of those experiences, the very trying to go away from right now, right here, that was the cause of unhappiness.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I love that. I think, first of all, I completely agree. I've had many guests over the years who have said that happiness is not our default state and that we are wired to seek survival, right? So the brain is not wired to be happy. It's wired to do the things necessary to keep us alive and reproduce. And whilst I don't disagree with that, I think, yes, we are wired to do that. I do believe that once those basic needs are met, I also believe that happiness is our default state. And when I was writing my book on happiness, I was thinking, well, how do I know that? Why do I believe that to be true? And one of the reasons I believe that to be true is if you look at kids, most kids anywhere in the world, 3 years old, right? On a warm spring day, they'll be in the garden, they'll be totally calm, content, present in the moment doing what they're doing. And I watch kids and I go, that's who we are. That's our default state. I'm sure of it. That is our default state. So firstly, yes, I also see the world that way. That's obviously a very Buddhist thing. And, that's how my understanding is that that's how Buddhism sees happiness, that it is our true nature. I also love what you said about the seeking of happiness is fundamentally flawed. And last year, there was a Swedish journalist interviewing me about happiness. And I remember she said to me, Dr. Chassi, how do you know when you're happy? And it took me a minute or two to think about it. I thought that's a really good question. How do you know? And the answer I gave and the answer I would give now is I think you know when you, again, I'm not saying you have achieved happiness, when you've uncovered the happiness that already exists within, is when you just stop wanting stuff. Like for me, I don't know, I just don't want anything.
Wonderful.
And I've worked on this. So I feel I put into practice, I've been experimenting for many, many years, but there's very little I want in life. I feel that I have just a wonderful life. I'm very grateful for it. And so if someone asked you, how do you know when you're happy? What answer would you give? The mental wellness app Calm are sponsoring today's show. Have you had difficulty focusing lately? Things like parenting pressures, work challenges, school commitments, or just personal drama can wreak havoc on your ability to stay focused and productive. If this sounds like you, I know something that can make a real difference, and that's Calm. Calm is the #1 app for sleep and meditation, giving you the power to calm your mind and change your life. Calm recognizes that everyone faces unique challenges in their daily lives and that mental health needs differ from person to person. And since self-care practices are so deeply personal, Calm strives to provide content that caters to your own individual preferences and needs. Their meditations range from focusing on anxiety and stress, relaxation and focus, to building habits, improving sleep, and taking care of your physical well-being. Calm also has sleep stories, sleep meditations, and calming music that will help you drift off for some restful sleep. For listeners of my show, Calm is offering an exclusive 40% off a Calm premium subscription at calm.com/live more, and new content is added every single week. Go to calm.com/live more for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/live more. Vivo Barefoot are one of the sponsors of today's show. Now, I am a huge fan of Vivo Barefoot shoes and have been wearing them for over a decade now, well before they started supporting this podcast. I've also been recommending them to patients for years because I've seen so many benefits. I've seen improvements in back pain, hip pain, knee pain, foot pain, and even things like plantar fasciitis. And contrary to what you might initially think, most people find Vivos really, really comfortable. And I have to say, especially at this time of year, as the temperature is starting to drop, their winter boots are absolutely fantastic, and I myself am really enjoying wearing their brand new Gobi warm-lined winter boots. Now, as well as adults, I think they are a fantastic option for children, and I really hope that in the future, more and more children start wearing barefoot shoes like Vivos, as I think this can prevent many downstream problems in the body later on in life. And remember, whether for your children or yourself, if you've never tried Vivos before, it's completely risk-free to do so, as they offer a 100-day trial for new customers. So if you're not happy, you just send them back for a full refund. If you go to vivobarefoot.com/live more, they are giving 20% off as a one-time code To all of my podcast listeners, terms and conditions do apply. To get your 20% off codes, all you have to do is go to vivobarefoot.com/live more.
I think gratitude, is another name for happiness. As I was coming to see you, I was inside in a train and looking out beautiful countryside of the United Kingdom. Oh, and I was thinking to myself, this is wonderful. I get to have this, beautiful experience, and I feel very grateful for the opportunity. And as I was tapping into the gratitude, I felt really happy. So when we are practicing gratitude, we are happy at where we are. We are not trying to grasp onto something that we don't have, or resisting what we already have. Instead, we are just thankful for where we are, and I think that's where happiness resides.
How does that apply to someone who maybe is not currently happy in their life? Let's say they're doing a job that they don't particularly like, that maybe doesn't pay them enough so that they feel comfortable. They may say, well, I get what you're saying, but I don't have anything to be grateful for. I will be happier when I get paid a bit more money and when I have a better job that is more fulfilling for me. How would you help someone like that think about this?
I think gratitude attracts more gratitude.
Yeah.
So when we can find some things to be grateful for, even in the moment that it's very difficult to find gratitude, then what you'll see is that unexpected opportunity comes to you. Just by remaining, just critical and being cynical, usually it doesn't help you in the long run. Rather, if you can just grateful for very little things. It can be just the fact that I am trying to better my situations, try to get a better job and try to take care of my, health. The very effort that I'm making, I'm very grateful. So rather than thinking about, huge things to be grateful for, you can just start with just, small thing in your life. And as you are counting your blessing, and you will see that more opportunities, unexpected opportunities will come to you.
Yeah. It's a practice, isn't it? It's something you get better at the more you do.
Right. Generally speaking, when we think about things, we always think about negative things, problems that we have to deal with, or, the task that I have to finish. So thereby we feel a lot of stress. However, when we practice gratitude, rather than going into that thinking mind, we are actually looking for what is there to feel, grateful for at this moment? Because we are practicing this gratitude. And I write that in my book. One of the ways is finding gratitude buddy. So you would text whenever you feel, grateful for, you'll just send a, simple text message to your friend. And then your friends will see that message, and probably this message will motivate him or her to write back, and then look for more, gratitude in their lives.
Yeah, I think gratitude is one of the most underrated practices. I mean, we hear it all the time. We see cute memes on Instagram talking about this. But it ain't enough. You've got to go and do it.
Absolutely.
You have to do it, don't you?
Yeah.
You have to make it a practice that you are going to think about gratitude. And I don't know what you would advise for people. Like, are you a fan of people writing down things that they're grateful for, or can you just think about it?
I think writing down is better,
Yeah, so do I.
So, like, if you cannot find any gratitude buddy, you can just text to yourself. You can just send a text message. So you'll see that maybe, a week or, a month later, huge list of things that you feel very grateful for. And you can just go back and read it whenever you feel a little down and feeling.
That's a great tip.
Yeah.
Just text it to yourself and then you don't need to. Great. If you've got a friend you can do it with, wonderful. But if you don't, that's just such a beautiful way of putting deposits in your gratitude bank each day.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In the section on happiness in this book, you've got just so many wonderful quotes about it. There's two in particular I really like. People have realized that happiness comes down to knowing how to appreciate the life that you have been given in this moment. It's so simple, but it's so easy to not do that. It speaks to gratitude, doesn't it? It's about appreciation. It's about the way I think about it and talk to people about it is this idea that you do have this negativity bias in your brain for very good reasons. It's kept you alive for many, many years. But gratitude is the only way to counteract that. So if you do nothing actively, you'll naturally go towards negativity. So if you want to take control of that, you have to actively, positively train yourself to appreciate things. And if you find it hard at first, just keep showing up and doing it. And within weeks, you will start to see gratitude and appreciation everywhere. Again, one of the reasons I feel, generally speaking, so calm and content these days, and dare I say it, happy, is because I believe that, and you write about this idea in your book, that where you put your focus, that's what starts to grow.
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So
please speak to that.
I think we have to make a decision. We have to decide to appreciate our lives. We have to decide to enjoy this moment. Once you decided that I'm going to enjoy this moment, then it makes it much easier to appreciate things. Without that intention, it's hard. The life just passes us by, and without really, becoming aware of what we are having it.
I love that. Let's just pause on that for a moment. You're saying you have to decide that you are going to enjoy the moment that's about to be there in front of you, right? Now, I think many people believe that the moment will determine whether I feel enjoyment. If it is a fun and enjoyable moment, I will feel happy. If it is a negative moment, I will feel negative and sad. But you're saying something completely different, which is before the moment arises, you have to positively decide, I'm going to enjoy it.
Yes, because if you are just reacting, you are the victim. You will become the victim of the situations. And you are, there are a lot of things that's happening to you, and you'll be pulled, towards many different directions. However, I think we have to be proactive, rather than being reactive. So once you decide, how you're going to do or how you're going to feel, then oftentimes that's the experience you're going to have.
Yeah. Talk to me about small but certain happiness. Wonderful chapter in your book. And I think it's a very simple concept that I think everyone's going to resonate with.
Thank you. I think oftentimes people imagine that they will finally, feel happy, and I'll be able to relax only when I achieve, some monumental goals in my life, such as maybe marrying somebody, love of your life, or, buying your first home, or getting promoted to the position that you really want. But while you are getting there, you also have to live your life. And it usually takes a long time to arrive at your goal. So I think it's important we look for what I would call small but certain happiness. This is not my idea. This is an idea that many people propose. But I think it is so important to look for something that's going to for sure make you happy, and then do it again and again and again.
Yeah, there's so many nuggets of wisdom in this book, right? And just speaking to what you just said now, in that section on small but certain happiness, it's just so simple. You say this: for some, the fragrant smell of freshly made morning coffee is a time of peace and happiness, while for others, it could be the warmth of the sun on their face, the sight of spring flowers, the feel of a cozy blanket on a chilly day, or simply spending time with their dog or cat after work. Now, here's the thing, Heyman. A lot of people listening are experiencing those things every day, but many won't have put the spotlight of gratitude onto them.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say someone has got half an hour to get up and get ready for work and get the kids, off to school or whatever it might be. They might make their morning coffee, rush and slurp it down whilst also getting things ready for work, right? So they've still had the experience of drinking freshly made morning coffee, but the intention behind it is very different.
Right. So it takes only 10 seconds.
Okay.
That is, wait, I'm just going to actually enjoy the smell of freshly made coffee, this intentions. And then you pause a little bit and then you re-engage with the experience. And from that moment, you say, wow, this is happiness.
Yeah.
Rather than searching for some, big things in your life, big success to be happy, maybe this is what I was after,
Yeah. I like that idea that it only takes 10 seconds or even 5 seconds. Sure, you're in a rush in the morning. Just take a simple pause, 30 seconds, smell the coffee, quite literally, let it tickle your senses.
Right.
Just that act, you're just starting to open up the door to appreciation, aren't you?
Right.
There's also this lovely concept of appreciation versus ownership that you write about. If you view happiness as a matter of appreciation rather than ownership, many things you can't own, such as the sunlight in your room, the laughter of children, a loving embrace, the colors of autumn foliage, a stunning sunset, the soothing sounds of music at night, the triumph of your favorite sports team, these things can bring happiness into your life. The important thing is whether you can slow down and appreciate life. I really like that. It's the same ideas that we've just been talking about, but it's a really beautiful concept. Think about the things that you can't own. That's really nice. It's a really nice place to put your focus on, I think.
Yes, I think we need to shift our idea, away from ownership to appreciations, when it comes to happiness. There are lots and lots of things in our lives we cannot own, even if we own something, in the grand scheme of things, we are just temporarily, caretaking or guarding, whatever that is. It can be very expensive, paintings or, whatever. So at the end, it's a matter of, appreciations. Even if you have a really wonderful things, even if you own wonderful things, if you are not appreciating, then what's the point?
Yeah. As you were talking then, I had a memory of when I was a child. And every other summer, we'd go to Kolkata in India for 6 weeks, because that's where my grandparents lived, all my family lived. And I can still remember, I think a lot about this these days, actually. I can still remember landing in the airport, and then we'd be getting a taxi to my dad's family's house where my grandma lived. And it's such a culture shock, like the colors, the noises, the landscape was so different in India to what I'm used to here in the UK. And I always would remember you'd be driving past what looked like slums, and there were kids who clearly didn't have much, and I'm not at all romanticizing that existence. But I always remember seeing families and kids squatting, like brushing their teeth around the drains and the roads, but smiling and kicking water from the wells to each other, and just sheer delight on their faces. Again, I'm not romanticizing that existence, but I think it speaks to this idea that, hey, they didn't have much, but from what I could see, and that's just a limited view of their life, there seemed to be a real, I don't know, playfulness and appreciation of what was there in that moment.
Yes, absolutely. I think, when we are born into this world, we are given, many different type of experience.
Yeah.
And, whatever that experience may be, we are here to learn. And one of the important key lesson, I think, whether we can appreciate, what's in front of us. And if we can, then that's where happiness lies, I think.
Yeah. The new book is called When Things Don't Go Your Way. It's a provocative title. I really like it. I guess most people believe, or most people think it is a good thing when things do go their way. But one of the central cases you make in this book is that we don't always want things to go our way, because when they don't go our way, there's real opportunity, isn't there?
Yes. And we don't know whether we'll be happy, if everything goes away like the way we wanted. Like, for example, somebody who just fall in love and imagine that if I get to marry that person, then I will be happy forever. And then actually this person get to marry, and only after 2-3 years later, they are getting divorced. So you don't know, just because things are going like the way you wanted, this is going to bring happiness to you. We simply do not know. In Zen tradition, and this mind is called don't know mind, we have to just bring this don't know mind to all situations, and having this open, open mindset, So rather than imagining, I already know what will happen, we should bring instead, don't know mind. I don't know whether it's going to bring me, more opportunity or happiness, or we don't know whether it's going to bring disappointments. Whatever that is, if we can just bring this mind of, openness and appreciations, then we'll feel at the end our life is actually full. We are having very, enriching experience.
I think that's a great example. If we meet the love of our life and we propose to them and they say yes, we feel, yeah, that's what I wanted. That's going to be amazing. And a lot of the time it is. But if you look at current divorce rates, you'd have to say a lot of the time it isn't. But if we take that don't know mind approach, how does that actually work in real life? Let's say there's someone listening to this right now who has just got engaged and they're getting married this summer, right? So they're excited. They've met someone, they've agreed to get married. How can they apply this idea of a don't know mind to their wedding? Because I guess the prevailing cultural view here, at least, would be, this is amazing. This is going to be the best day of my life. I've met the love of my life. So, yeah, just help us understand how you can apply that type of mindset to an exciting event.
Well, when you are planning for your own wedding, I'm sure you have some idea, how it should go, However, if you can just apply don't know mind, even if some things are not going like the way you imagined, maybe the cake wasn't exactly the way you wanted, or the way people interact, or the speech that other, your relatives or your best friends were making, didn't quite, gel well. But you still remain this, idea of don't know mind. And in this mind of not knowing, you can relax, rather than tightly trying to control everything and then everything have to go like the way I want it. And, screaming like a little kid if it doesn't, that's not going to make you happy. I think there's openness and a new possibility when I have, don't know mine. Yeah. And we can also relax.
Yeah. That wedding example is actually so good because I know many people who have got mega stressed about their weddings, and I understand it. I'm not judging it. I'm just observing it. And sometimes we'll literally get stressed over the tablecloth isn't the right color, right? The napkins are not exactly how I had imagined them. And then if we go back to what we were talking about before, which is about who are we? It's that space where thought ends. It's about the non-identification with things, right? Not being so attached to things. You kind of really see it in that moment, don't you? Whereby people grow up with an idea that my wedding day has to be this way. I don't know if it's the same in Korea or not, but here in the UK, I think many people grow up with the idea that this is how my wedding's going to be. This is what it's going to look like. This is the dress. This is how we're going to arrive. And hey, listen, we've all got desires and things that we would like to happen in certain ways. I guess you're saying the problem is if you are dependent on that, if your happiness is conditional on those things happening, you put yourself in a very, very weak position, don't you?
Yes. Rather than trying to control everything, can you relax and actually enjoy? Things may go not exactly you had planned, but it doesn't mean that that experience is not going to be unhappy. It can be just as wonderful, unexpected, but still very wonderful. When we love something, or someone, we do bring this don't know mind. That is, we don't know if this person likes this type of food or that kind of color, what kind of music this person likes. When you are first dating, then there is moment of, like wanting to know more, because you are bringing this, I don't know yet, There's a genuine sense of curiosity. Yeah. But after, being together for a couple of years or, 10 years, if you stop having don't know mind, that is, I know everything there is to know about this person. I know everything there is to know about my own child, then what you do is instead of listening, you would just end up, prescribing, you are supposed to do this, you are supposed to do that, you are just keep on nagging them as opposed to really trying to understand what's happening to them. So I think, another word for love is don't know mind.
Yeah. That may well be the number one problem with most relationships, that we stop being curious.
Mm-hmm.
We change our mindset from when we were dating, when, as you say, we were looking to discover, to learn, to find out. But over time, I don't know if you'd call it laziness, but this kind of inertia can almost slip in where we make assumptions about our partner. We think that they're doing things because that's the way they've always done things, and we expect them to behave in a certain way. I have this little exercise that I often do with my wife called starting with zero.
Oh, wow. What is that?
And the idea is basically, this episode is brought to you by Airbnb. Now, I've been using Airbnbs for many years now, for pleasure and for work. And last year, when I was in London for a few days of work, instead of staying in a hotel, I stayed in a wonderful Airbnb, which was centrally located and had a really nice kitchen, so I could start off each day with my own foods, just the way I like it. I've also just booked an Airbnb for a work trip to Oxford, in which I plan on recording a few episodes of this podcast. Now, over the summer, one of my best friends from university told me that he has been hosting his own place on Airbnb when he and his family are away. And he said that the extra money has been fantastic and helped over the years, both with the cost of their holiday and the cost of their new family car, which got me thinking, when we're next away as a family and our house sits empty, perhaps we could Airbnb our own place and make some extra money to go towards our holiday. And if you have a trip coming up, you could potentially do the same. Your home might be worth more than you think. Find out how much at airbnb.co.uk/host. Just taking a quick break to give a shout out to AG1, one of the sponsors of today's show. Now, AG1 has been in my own life for over 5 years now. It is a science-driven daily health drink with over 70 essential nutrients to support your overall health. It contains vitamin C and zinc, which helps support a healthy immune system, something that is really important, especially at this time of year. It also contains prebiotics and digestive enzymes that help support your gut health. And all this goodness comes in one convenient daily serving that makes it really easy to fit into your life. No matter how busy you feel, it's also really tasty as well. Now, the scientific team behind AG1 includes experts from a broad range of fields, including longevity, preventive medicine, genetics, and biochemistry. And I talk to them regularly and I'm really impressed with their commitment to making a top quality product. For listeners of my podcast, AG1 are giving a special exclusive offer. You can get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and K2 and 5 free travel packs with your first order. These packs are perfect for keeping in your backpack, office, or car. If you want to give them a try, just go to drinkag1.com/live more. The big idea is that our past often haunts our present day relationships.
Absolutely.
And so I think I came up with it maybe a year ago. Just this idea, what would happen if I interacted with Vid now, Vid's my wife, as if this was the first time I'd ever met her? Even though, I've been married for over 15 years, right? What happens if I interact with her in the morning, she comes down to the kitchen, I've been up for a bit, as if it was the first time? And I tell you, I should honestly do it more, because when I do it, the knock-on effect is just profound. You're not making assumptions or judgments. You're literally taking someone for who they are in that moment, and you start to learn new things that you don't learn when you think you know it all already.
That is so true. Yeah. I hope people can apply that exercise, to their relationships. Whenever we think we know about something, it's all in the past. We are not actually knowing anything in the present moment. Anything that you know is something that already happened. The present moment, you cannot think about present moment, right? If you think about something, it is something that already happened,
Of course.
So this is the, opening into your this wonder, this, if you want to have a wonder in your life, rather than assuming that you already know, bring this mindset of, I don't know yet, let me just appreciate what's in front of me right now.
I love that. That totally landed for me. Once you start thinking about it, it's already happened.
Yes.
You're not in the present moment anymore. That's so powerful.
You cannot think about the present moment. It's simply impossible.
Yeah. Okay, in terms of practical guidance for people so far, we mentioned the body scan. We've mentioned gratitude. I shared this starting with 0 exercise that, you seem to really like. So hopefully people will give that a go. You also write in the book about 3 tips for a better life. The first one of those tips is, don't ask what others have said about you. Great tip. Can you explain why you recommend that?
Um, when we are young, we tend to think about, we are so concerned about how other people are saying things about me, But as we get older and older and we become wiser, that is, they don't really, think about me that much, because I don't think about them, that often. Even if I do, it's not for a long period of time. We just tend to just assume that everybody is looking at me and judging me and think about how, my clothing is not good or the way I talk is not good or whatever. But that's not true, Essentially, we really do not know about other people other than our own experience. So what happened is that when we try to understand other people, we bring our own experience onto that. So when people are talking about, me, they are essentially talking about themselves because that particular part, what they have witnessed, it resonates with them, their own experience. And thereby they want to talk about that particular aspect of you. So although it sounds as though they are talking about them, it often, if you actually listen, they are talking about themselves. So rather than, caring so much about what other people are saying about you, just get in touch with your own intention. First in Buddhism, we call the beginner's mind. Remember why you got into this, professions, why you are doing things, in the first place. Because as you are working, I'm sure there will be a lot of criticism. A lot of people will say, this is not right and that is not right. But insofar as, helping others, serving other people, I'm sure that's where the meaning of our lives arise. So if you can just get in touch with that, I am doing things to help other people. And certainly there will be other people's may misconstrue.
Yeah.
Yeah. However, insofar as your intention is still pure, then I think you can just, continue to do your work.
Yeah. What I really like about that tip, because it really, really resonated. And I think the reason is, in the past, I very much would have wanted to know what other people were saying about me. If I heard something at work or something, I'd want, well, who said what? Who said that? Did they understand this? And until I read that yesterday in your book, I hadn't realized how much that had changed for me. When it's this idea, isn't it, that what other people think of you is none of your business. They're entitled to think whatever they want to. And I think the key for that is not don't care about what others have said about you. You say, don't even ask, right? I love that. Don't even ask. You don't even need to know. Why do you need to know? I reckon there's so many people who'll be listening to that will go, God, I always want to know what people are saying. Who said what? But how does that even help you? It just gets you dragged down into this negative mindset. You've just got to act as much as you can in accordance with your values. And if you do that, how other people interpret it, it's kind of up to them, isn't it?
Right. And we have no control over how other people, think of us, what they are saying about us. We have no control.
Well, that speaks to the third one there. 3 tips for a better life. I've just mentioned the first one. The third one in those 3 is let go of things outside your control.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that so important for people?
I think we assume that somehow we can control other people's, how they think, especially, how they think about ourselves. But we cannot. Simply recognizing the impossibility of controlling other people's, that frees us from all the psychological, stress and struggle that we are feeling.
In English, we have a term called people pleasing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that very much speaks to this idea. I think the underlying energy behind people pleasing is often I'm trying to control what other people think of me. I'm trying to behave in certain ways so that people like me, they accept me. And we have a desire as humans for that connection. We want other people to like us, but I guess people pleasers or excessive people pleasers, actually, it is a form of control. You're trying to control what other people think of you. And it comes at a huge cost because you're no longer being yourself in order to be liked by others.
Right. And you are neglecting your own needs, your own, desire at the same time. So I would say that rather than trying to, earn other people's, positive opinions of you, see if you can first become, validator,
Yeah.
We look for outside, validations. And however, if you can just be your own validator, that is to, write it down, all the wonderful things that you have done, for the last, several years, then actually celebrate your own achievement.
So that sounds like another practical tip for people, right? Because we are living in a time when many people are struggling with happiness, they're struggling with their moods, they're struggling with the state of the world. As you say, things outside their control a lot of the time. And we've mentioned quite a few practical things that people can do, but this one sounds like a new one. It's kind of like gratitude, but it's gratitude for yourself. Is that a fair way to describe it?
Yes, and celebrate your own achievement. We tend to just downgrade, what we have done and, imagining that, oh, this was nothing, of being just humble or just we took it for granted. However, if we can say, hey, let's imagine myself, 5 years ago or 10 years ago, if I, had known that I would have achieved this amount of, things for the next 10 years, then I'm sure my younger self wouldn't have believed, what I said.
So that could be something we text ourselves each day as well, couldn't it? We could send ourselves a message. So when we're feeling down or we feel that we're worthless and we've got nothing to contribute, actually, you can look at that list and go, oh, I made sure my friend was okay when he was struggling. I went round and brought my neighbour some shopping when they broke their leg and they couldn't get out. And whatever it might be, you're putting those deposits in the bank of saying, no, I am someone who's worthy. I am someone who actually is contributing to this world. I've seen so many patients over the years who really, really struggle with their mood, with things like depression and anxiety. And a lot of the time, they become really me-focused. They're stuck in their own heads.
Yes.
Yeah? Can we maybe speak to that?
Yes. When we think less about ourselves, that's when we become happier. That's another important, lessons, I think. If we are trying very hard to make ourselves happy, then there is no guarantee that we will be happy. However, if you are making other people happy, then there is, you'll be sure to be happier. That this is like, beautiful, Buddhist teaching by Shantideva. And I think we should, remember that just by trying to make myself happy, we think this is going to bring me happiness. Yes, it is important to do self-care, but at the same time, we also have to remember we live in this interconnected web of reality. So when my, child or my mother, my wife is happy, then of course, it's going to influence my own happiness.
Yeah.
And if we are, like for example, I do volunteer work, for the homeless people in Korea. When I do that, there's a feeling of meaning in my life. When I do that, I generally becomes a lot happier after 2-3 hours of volunteer work. So connection is another key ingredient for happiness. When we feel connected to nature, when we feel connected to another human being, that's when we feel happy.
Yeah. I know for me, sometimes if I'm not having the best day and I go to the local supermarket, I can feel amazing afterwards. I'm a very chatty person. So if I'm at the supermarket, I'll be chatting to the people who work there and the cashier and things. And it's amazing, just 5 minutes of interaction with people who you don't know well, right? They're not like your close friends or your family, but you might see them from time to time. On the way walking home or on the way up to my car in the car park, I feel like I've had this real boost of feel good. And that's how simple improving our mental well-being can be from time to time, can't it? You can't do it if you're stuck at home in your own head, just scrolling the lives of other people on social media. You have to get in the real world and interact with someone else, no matter how small. It is incredible what kind of impact that has on our, on the way that we feel, isn't it?
Yes, it will get you out of your own, self-obsessive, thinking mind as we move away from me, and then actually pay attention to people around us and making those micro connections here and there. This will just remind us how connected we are to the world. Yeah. And when we feel the connection, we become happier.
You mentioned, I think, a really key point, which is we're looking for that sweet spot. We're not looking to neglect our own needs and do everything for everyone else at the expense of ourselves, nor are we trying to go to the other extreme where everything is me focused. I don't care about anyone else as long as I'm meditating and I'm walking and I am doing what I need to do for me. And I think that is a sweet spot that many people struggle to find. Do you have any tips on how they can get the right balance between self-care and doing things for others?
Again, I will check with my body.
Okay.
Yeah, when I feel extremely tired, helping other people, then it is time for me to take good care of my, body, myself. So it's important to just turning in and feel how your body is feeling at that moment.
Yeah. That speaks to me about the importance of solitude. And solitude is something I talk a lot about and I write a lot about because I feel very strongly that in this modern 21st century world where most people feel chronically stressed and overloaded and they don't feel they have time to do all the things that they want to do for themselves, I feel that a daily practice of solitude is probably the most valuable thing they can invest in because it's that time by yourself, whether it's to do a body scan or to write down 3 things you're grateful for, whatever it might be, it's time where you can actually nourish yourself and actually reflect on your life and know if you have to make changes or not. Now, you write about solitude in this new book, and you specifically say this: one who knows how to enjoy time by themselves without depending on others is a free person. Having a lot of time does not in and of itself make a person free. So can you speak to that? Can you speak to the importance of solitude and why so many people struggle to be okay just with themselves and why it's so important that we cultivate that skill?
I often go out to my local park and without bringing my cell phone.
Yeah,
just giving myself maybe 30 minutes or 1 hour just alone, without being constantly connected to other people. This gives us a sense of peace and also connection to nature. And as we are feeling nature and also how my body's feeling and then witnessing beauty of nature, the sound of birds, the trees and flowers and all of that, it kind of restore our sense of balance. It restore what it means to be me.
Is that the nature doing it, or is it the time alone, or is it both?
I think it's both. They have such a powerful restorative, power, just being alone, but at the same time out in nature. Oftentimes we think about something and this stresses us out. However, if we are outside, it feels like, your thought is still there, but it's like, little. You feel like in this great context of amazing nature. It's just a little thing, as opposed to if you're sitting in front of your desk, in front of your computer, and just ruminating about this, stressful event that you have to think about, then it feels like that is a huge, something that you cannot overcome. So I think it's very important that we can just spend some time alone in nature.
Mm. You've been a practicing Buddhist monk for over 2 decades, I think 25 years. Are there some common practices that you recommend time and time again to people? Like practices that have stood the test of time and always make a difference, no matter whether someone lives in Korea, the UK, or America? And if so, what are they?
In my new book, I talk about the importance of having your own sacred space. You might be living in a huge city, like in London or Manchester or New York, but if you can find little corner, little nook, of your, favorite bookshop or coffee shop, or under the tree, your favorite tree in a public park, or church or mosque or temple, somewhere you feel like relaxed and can enjoy the moment, or in front of your favorite painting in your local museum. If you can just find those spots and go there again and again, and that place becomes your sacred space. So although the city that you live, if you may feel this is kind of impersonal and overwhelming, but by having those, sacred space, personalize your daily experience, and you actually enjoy being alone in that space.
Is it important that that space is outside the place where you live, or could it be a particular room in your house or your apartment? Because just trying to broaden it out, if someone feels that they can't get out, can you also get that relaxation and restoration in your place of residence?
I think it's possible. You just create in a special corner. If you are a meditator, for example, you can just make it one corner in your room, and this is where I'm going to sit and meditate. But at the same time, I think it's nice to have somewhere, not exactly your workspace, but also not exactly your, home, somewhere in between, and where you can go and just be yourself and just relax. This can be another thing we can all do.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier that we're all interconnected. And that seems to be a theme that often comes up in Buddhist philosophy, the interconnected nature of all of us and life. What does that actually mean, though, when you say that everything's connected?
One of the reasons why we are unhappy is because we feel sometimes we are isolated and we are not connected to other people, and nobody seems to really care about me, and therefore, what's the value of myself, but if you actually see yourself, the world and what we call I, appear always at the same time. I have never existed independently apart from the world. even right now, like, what I call hemin, maybe people will imagine, along the skin line, he exists. But this other space around me, or you, or, this amazing studio, it's all appear at the same time. So inherently, we are already connected, However, when we just end up thinking about stuff all the time and conceptualize everything and see the whole world, through the eyes of thinking mind, then it feels as though the whole world is separated. I can somehow exist apart from the rest of the world. But that is not the case. We pay so much, attention to the language, and once we have those words, like, for example, the cup here, then it seems as though the cup exists inherently, independently, apart from the rest of the world. But we have to remind ourselves, the language cup, the word, it is something that we gave artificially,
We made it up.
Yeah, it didn't exist. However, since the language is being so powerful and see things, through the lens of language, we just separate, by assigning words, different, nouns to different things, and imagine those nouns actually exist by themselves.
Yeah.
But that's not true.
Yeah, I love that. It reminds me of what I used to do with my kids when they were a bit younger. If we were by the water, like the ocean, I'd say, what color is it? And often they say blue. So what is the ocean blue? And initially it would be like, yeah, it's blue. I said, well, hold on a minute. Is it the ocean that's blue? And essentially we got together to the point that, no, there is water there and we are seeing it as blue right now. But another animal, like a fish, for example, might see it completely differently. So it's not inherently blue. And you could even go, I'm labeling it an ocean. It's not even an ocean. I'm labeling it water. You could even go all the way with that, can't you?
Right. There's a sunlight, unless there's a sunlight, we will not be able to see the color of blue, right?
Yeah.
So also, the fact that there's no cloud, maybe, like there are a lot of, elements that gives rise to the experience of blue oceans. It's not one ocean is, in and of itself. In other words, we are interconnected. And when we have this experience of this truth of interconnectedness, that's when we feel happy.
If someone's listening and they go, I don't buy that. Okay. Things are not interconnected. I am just me. Someone else is someone else. That is a cup, right? If they're not following that or they don't agree, what is the consequence of living a life where you do not believe that everything is connected?
Then you might live very lonely life or a fearful life. I think, we can have two different kind of worldview. Yeah. The first worldview is that the world outside is actually uncaring and cold. It's my own hard effort that only going to bring me a success. Nobody's going to care about me and nobody's going to help me. And thereby, I just have to work really diligently and I can become successful. I can take good care of my family, That's one view. And another view is believing that the universe outside is caring, benevolent. And if you pray, for example, for something, then the universe will try hard to deliver what you asked. This is another, worldview. There are two kinds of worldview, and you can decide, what kind of universe you want to live in.
Yeah.
If you decide that world is uncaring and I live, independently and isolated and nobody's going to help me, yeah, then oftentimes you will experience that because whatever you project out onto the universe, that's what you're going to receive. And whereas the other one who believes the interconnectedness and other people will come to help me as I'm helping other people, then they will experience, a lot of gratitude, a lot of connections. And this is also choice, if you can have the faith in the universe that, I don't have a job now, but I'm sure as I'm putting a lot of effort right now, the universe will deliver, the job that I'm seeking.
Yeah.
Or, maybe my friends became very successful. But instead of feeling jealous, I have trust in the universe that I will have my own version of success. My success will be quite different from my friends. Thereby, I don't need to feel jealous.
Did you find when you went to America that potentially some aspects of the American dream fall into that first worldview whereby it's all on me? I don't need anyone else. I get that, most things have upsides and downsides. So one of the upsides of the American dream, as I understand it, is that anyone can achieve anything, right? If you put the work in, your diligence, your practice, you can get to where you need to get to. But that can be taken to an extreme where we don't care about anyone. All we think about is ourselves. We've become very individualistic. And I definitely think that cultures like America and the UK and many other countries have become much more individualistic and are adopting that worldview, which I think is problematic. So I'm interested, I guess, number one, did you see that worldview when you went to America? Is it also the worldview that's in Korea, or is Korea a little bit different? But also, do you think this is one of the reasons why burnout is on the rise? Because it is. So many people feel chronically overloaded and burnt out. And I wonder if burnout is a natural consequence of having that first worldview rather than that second one.
Yeah, I think, if you are heavily believe in self-reliance, thinking that I have to take care of myself and I should not, bother other people. Then even if you are having a hard time at work, you don't know how to ask, could you please help me, with this, or you don't know how to ask even your children, can you come and, help me buy, grocery or something, So overly like self-reliance tendency can create burnout, I do believe. But I think it takes a little bit of vulnerability maybe to ask, I need some help. I am in trouble, could you please some help? And more often people are willing to help you, just that you didn't ask. You'll find that people are actually, care about you. Just overly, self-reliance, this idea that I have to take good care of myself without relying on other people. I think there's some merit to that, but in reality, we are interdependent, beings. We need each other. So when we can ask other people's help, sure enough, we will also have opportunity to help them. So, yeah.
One of the other lines that resonated with me in your new book was this one: if you can control your ambition, you won't overextend yourself. If you do not overextend, you will not harm your health. If your health is good, your mind becomes balanced easily. If your mind is balanced, you will find happiness in little things. It's this beautiful loop where everything feeds each other. But that first bit, I think, is key. If you can control your ambition, you won't overextend yourself. We've just been talking about burnout. And often burnout comes as a consequence of unchecked ambition. How do you control your ambition?
People tend to have this imaginations that once I achieve such and such, then my, life will have worth, I will be worthy, But investigate where that feeling of lack, feeling of insufficiency is coming from. You imagine that it is the outside achievements is going to make you feel that you are finally worthy. But maybe it is, unloved and uncared past experience, while growing up. Maybe that is like, a little child within you. It is still asking you to pay attention to me more, So rather than zeroing on it's just outside goals to make you feel like finally maybe I am somebody, you can just go directly to the source. What is the very force that keeps on making me work, I don't know, like, 80 hours or 100 hours a week, while not spending any time at all with my family, or close friends, So I think it's important to check your own ambitions and see people around you, and if you are maintaining, harmonious relationship with them, because at the end, you want to be happy together. You don't want to be just happy by yourself and while other people's feeling miserable.
Yeah. When I was researching your own story, one of the things that resonated with me the most was something that I also discovered early on in my career as a doctor, which was the power of listening. And you tell the story, or I've heard you tell the story, that when you were a monk, suddenly people would come up to you and ask you all kinds of things afterwards that you didn't feel equipped to answer, but you learned a powerful lesson, didn't you?
Yes.
Could you share that? I think it's so powerful, and I think it's so applicable to all of us.
I think most people, they just want to be heard, and they want somebody there to witness, what's happening in their lives. And especially if the person is listening with a sense of empathy, then you will feel a lot better afterwards. You realize that you are not alone, going through this very challenging, experience in your life. And also, people already know the answer to their problem. It's just that in their head, it's disorganized and you are not actually asking the right questions. And therefore, you think you don't know the answers. But as you are listening to what they have to say, as you are untangle what's happened, and you beginning to really see the answer that you've been seeking was right in front of you.
Yeah. I think that's one of the most powerful realizations I've had in my own career. And I won't tell the story again because I've told it before on this podcast. But in my very first week as a GP, I learned that lesson when I didn't really know exactly what to do with a patient. So I just listened attentively and would see the patient back every week. And she got better. Because as you said, she knew the answers. But what she didn't have in her life was someone who she could talk to and open up to, and they weren't going to judge her. And I think you said also, you've mentioned it, you wrote about it in the book, how sometimes that's the role a therapist will play, where people can actually speak, get in touch with their emotions, express them without fear of judgment or being cut off. And you often find those answers yourself. I think it also speaks to this idea that one of the central ideas in your work in Buddhist philosophy, that all the answers are within. The happiness is already there. We're not looking for it outside. We just need to get out of its way.
And relax into it.
And relax into it.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, that's difficult for people when they're feeling rushed all the time and stressed all the time. And, you know, you literally see the world differently when you're rushing. You covered that in one of your previous books, didn't you?
Right. You know, people love the title, you know, things you can see only when you slow down, you know?
Great title.
Yeah. I think we need to just take a you know, periodically pause and see if you can slow down.
Yeah.
And when we are slowing down, then we can actually see and appreciate our life that is quickly passing in front of us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I think a lot of these practices do, a gratitude practice or a body scan, or just taking 10, 15 seconds to smell that fresh tea or that fresh coffee and let the aroma go into you and surround you. I think one of the things it does, if you're leading a busy life, is number one, it forces you to slow down. But number two, it reminds you what the feeling of slow feels like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then once you tune into that and go, oh, it's nice not to rush this coffee and just sit there. That feeling, when you do it regularly, starts to follow you round in other parts of your day. That's certainly what I found in my own life. And I'm now at the point where, let's say on a Sunday, I'll sometimes intentionally in the morning go, okay, today is going to be a slow day. Right? Today's a slow day. Everything is going to be done with the energy of slowness, including when you're driving somewhere, like not rushing, just taking your time in the car. And what I like about it, the more I've done it, the more I have learned when I have a tendency to rush.
Mm.
So you start to develop that inner awareness of, oh, I'm rushing here. Oh, I wanted this to be a slow day, but I did rush then, or I left a bit late to get my daughter to her netball game or whatever, right? And again, it's all about awareness, because the more you do it, the more you realize, actually, most of the time, I really don't need to rush. I just don't. So that slowness, I think it almost becomes addictive because it feels so good.
Yeah. And you can, you know, you can enjoy the process. As we are doing things slowly, you can enjoy the driving, you know?
Yeah.
You can enjoy, you know, having conversation with your daughter. You know, you can enjoy arriving at that place and maybe, you know, saying hi to other parents.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, I'm sure many people do, when I was like 18, 19, 20, 21, I was always in a rush when driving to get somewhere. I was always rushing around. And it's, you know, I can only see it now with such clarity because I don't so much anymore. And life becomes much more enjoyable when you don't rush all the time. But again, I want to make it practical. So for that person who feels stressed out and rushing, even these little pockets or a 5-minute body scan in the morning.
Also, you know, instead of checking in, looking at your smartphone, see if you can leave your home 5 minutes earlier. That is, when you have to go to work, and having that extra 5 minutes can have a huge impact. You know, the maybe commuting time can be 1 hour or maybe 45 minutes. Having extra 5 minutes, you can feel as though you can slow down.
Yeah.
You can actually relax. You don't have to rush so much. Yeah. So rather than spending, you know, mindlessly looking at your email in the morning or checking news, see if you can leave a little bit earlier and give yourselves breathing space.
Yeah.
And that will allow you to slow down more.
Yeah, love that. The final thing I wanted to bring up with you, Heyman, is, I guess, a central idea in the book, when things don't go your way. You mentioned before about these two different worldviews we can adopt, and that it is a choice to decide which worldview you're going to adopt. I very much feel that idea when I think about the title, When Things Don't Go Your Way. You have a choice in life how you react to that. You could take what is often called the victim mindset, right? Which is, I can't believe it happened that way. It always happens to me like that. I can't believe things don't go my way, etc., 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 which I used to have, right? So this ain't no criticism on anyone. I used to have that, but I don't have it anymore. So you can change it and you can choose a different mindset consciously initially, and then it becomes unconscious. Whereas the natural state then becomes, what's the upside of the situation? What can I learn here? And it's something I'm very much as a parent try and teach my kids when things aren't going their way, have done for years. It's like, okay, well, what's the upside here? What can you learn from this situation? I wish I'd learned that as a kid. I didn't. I've learned it as an adult. But would you agree with that central to this message is choice? Central to your message in this book is this idea that, listen, things are always going to happen that you don't predict, you don't plan, and perhaps you don't want. But it fundamentally comes down to your choice in how you interpret that will determine its outcome. Do you agree with that? Is there anything you want to add to that? And is that fair to say?
I think that's very fair to say. The life experience is kind of raw data. It doesn't tell you how to interpret it. It's our job to make that interpretations. And you can say that, oh, that experience was just horrible. I feel like, I'm the victim of the situations. Then that's where you're going to, end. That's what the experience is going to offer you. But on the other hand, you interpret that as, oh, that was my, opportunity to grow and to learn about, deeper truth about myself. And also maybe next time when I have a, similar opportunity, I will do it in a different way. And so that I can, do better, Yeah. So, it's your, interpretation and your choice, rather than feeling like, everything is right, controlling me. The environment is controlling me. People are controlling me. All this responsibility is making me feel very unhappy. Make a choice, in spite of all of this, I will choose to, connect with my own intentions, the reason why I'm here on earth. I want to serve other people. And when I feel connected, then I feel, a sense of meanings and I feel happy. Yeah. So make that choice. Don't feel reactive, become proactive.
Yeah, I love that. A situation where many people struggle that I think relates to this is forgiveness and letting go of perceived negative events in the past. I talk about forgiveness a lot because I genuinely do believe it is a skill that we can all cultivate and get better at. You also write about forgiveness in the latest book. What does the concept of forgiveness mean to you? And why do you think people struggle with it so much?
When we understood the person or the situation, then we can forgive. We cannot forgive the person or the situation because we don't understand. So rather than just jumping into conclusion, that person was evil, that person was just horrible, try to understand what kind of life experience that person had that led them to behave in such a way. Yeah. So, and you might say, well, I don't want to even think about, what kind of life experience that person had. But if you actually can say, yes, I honor my own pain, my own suffering, and I do express, all this feeling that I had, after experiencing that, if you can have a little space in your heart, try to understand, those people who gave you a really difficult time. I'm sure those people were not happy, at least at that moment, or, while they were growing up, they had, lots of, unfortunate events that happened in their lives, and thereby they inflict pain onto other people. So once we begin to see how others are behaving because of their past painful experience, then our heart becomes softer.
Yeah.
You know? We don't say that all those things they have done to me is okay. You know, we're not saying that's okay. No. Yeah. However, you will feel that your heart is softer. Yeah. More willing to accept. Yeah. And as we understood the situation, then we can slowly release it.
Yeah. Thank you. You had the great fortune of spending some time with the great Thich Nhat Hanh. Could you share some of the key things you learned from him with us?
I loved his walking meditations. You know, he said, walk as though your feet are, kissing the earth. To me, that teaching was such a powerful, one. And because we often just think about, I have to arrive at a certain place, and without paying attention to actual process of walking itself. And instead, can you just say, I'm going to enjoy my walking? I'm going to kiss the earth as I am, taking my step. I think that's a really wonderful way to start our day.
Very mindful, very present, very evocative thought, kissing the earth as you walk. Hey, man, I'm a huge fan of your work. The last time we spoke was about 5 years ago. Love the new book. I think there's so much wisdom in there for people that's really going to help them. To finish off, a lot of people are struggling in the world at the moment for a variety of different reasons. If someone's listening to you now and they're going through hard times, things are not going the way that they want, what are your final words to them?
Don't jump into quick conclusion that just because things are not going like the way you wanted, it is bad. Have open mind. You never know what kind of opportunities, different experience you might enjoy, or you feel later super grateful. A friend of mine, he wrote a book, and while he was writing, he was asking me, do you think this book will become a bestseller? Interestingly, his book didn't do well in terms of, sales of the book. However, one of the readers of that book now became his wife. Right. The reader actually sent a quick message to him how much she appreciated his book, and they decided to have a coffee together. And one thing led to another. They met and they started dating, and now they are married, and now they have a beautiful daughter.
Wow!
So you don't know how the life is going to be turned out. You might imagine that, you know what kind of happiness you want to have. But in the end, the universe may award you with different type of, happiness. And still valid and still wonderful.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you. What a wonderful story. You're doing fantastic work. I love the book. Thank you for making the journey to the studio. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Really hope you enjoyed that conversation. Do think about one thing that you can take away and apply into your own life. And also have a think about one thing from this conversation that you can teach to somebody else. Remember, when you teach someone, it not only helps them, it also helps you learn and retain the information. Now, before you go, just wanted to let you know about Friday 5. It's my free weekly email containing 5 simple ideas to improve your health and happiness. In that email, I share exclusive insights that I do not share anywhere else, including health advice, how to manage your time better, interesting articles or videos that I've been consuming, and quotes that have caused me to stop and reflect. And I have to say, in a world of endless emails, it really is delightful that many of you tell me it is one of the only weekly emails that you actively look forward to receiving. So if that sounds like something you would like to receive each and every Friday, you can sign up for free at drchatterjee.com/Friday5. Now, if you are new to my podcast, you may be interested to know that I have written 5 books that have been bestsellers all over the world, covering all kinds of different topics: happiness, food, stress, sleep, behavior change and movement, weight loss, and so much more. So please do take a moment to check them out. They are all available as paperbacks, ebooks, and as audiobooks, which I am narrating. If you enjoyed today's episode, it is always appreciated if you can take a moment to share the podcast with your friends and family, or leave a review on Apple Podcasts. Thank you so much for listening. Have a wonderful week. And please note that if you want to listen to this show without any adverts at all, that option is now available for a small monthly fee on Apple and on Android. All you have to do is click the link in the episode notes in your podcast app. And always remember, you are the architect of your own health. Making lifestyle change is always worth it, because when you feel better, you live more.